You are now tuned in to the sounds of
Big Nate Sports Talk.
It's on all the time, anytime.
Tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that is on all the time, anytime. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the next big thing, the latest up-and-coming sports journalist, your host, Nathan Snell.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony Handy, for that wonderful introduction. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host, Nathan Snell of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. This is episode number 382 of the podcast. In this episode, we are previewing the 2024 Baltimore Ravens as we are so ever close to week one as we're getting ready to face the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs. But before we get into that, there's a few things. I want to start off with this. I would like to send my thoughts and prayers to those that were affected by the school shooting that occurred today in Georgia at Appalachia High School. Tragically, there was 4 people that were killed, at least 9 injured. I want to send my thoughts and prayers to those families. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a serious gun issue in this country. I really try to steer away from politics on this channel. But the one thing I don't like is when school is supposed to be a place where we go to learn, socialize. Those faculty and staff, like, not knowing that, sadly, that this was their last day on this earth, it's sickening. It's sad that you can't even. This is like we cannot get numb to this. At some point, we've really got to start holding our politicians accountable. That is on the local government. That is on the state government. That's on all levels of government. Like, both, it doesn't matter what side of the spectrum you stand on. You've got to hold people accountable. Like, enough is enough of this. We can't get numb to this. At some point, we got to someone has to start taking responsibility for this. Like, the fact that a 14-year-old, like, somebody has to take accountability for that. And I mean, I don't want to go continue with this. I'm frustrated because it's like, damn, like it's bad enough we're already dealing with a lot of just death and illness and others around this world, and it's just like, when you see that, it just makes you truly appreciate that life is very precious, that tomorrow could be your last, and just friends and family, just telling them that you love them. Like, there was a young lady that texted her mom and saying, "I'm sorry I wasn't the perfect daughter." Like, if I was a parent, I don't know how I would feel about getting a text like that, vice versa. So I really want to send my thoughts and prayers to the families, and I'm hoping that we really truly get a hold on this, because this is like this is ridiculous at this point. And regardless, and like I said, we are in an election year. Make sure you get a new mayor. Make sure you get a new chief of police. Make sure you get a new DA, a new governor, a new senator, new district court judge, congressman, congresswoman. Put people in positions of power where they're going to get things done. With that being said, I'm gonna take a little break. I'll be right back. And we're back. We're now transitioning into the preview of the 2024 Baltimore Ravens. If the last video you saw was essentially my my exit interview, essentially, of the Ravens, I still have not recovered from the AFC Championship loss last year. I have been firm on this point, and I'm not backing away from this point. Our championship window as of last year has officially closed. Some friends have been very firm and saying, no, I don't think it's closed. You got Derrick Henry, you got this. That's fine and dandy. But we're going into years. And you have to understand now, especially how teams are built. Guys are 1 year older. Money, free agency, and other and those that are in your conference and in your division. When I look at the Baltimore Ravens, there's a lot of change happened over this offseason. We lost Mike McDonald to Seattle as a head coach. I wish him all the best there. Jadavion Clowney departed. We lost Patrick Queen to a team I would think he would never go to, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Our offensive line, took a hit. I thought we did okay in this draft. I would like to say I'm happy on a couple things, but in reality, I'm really like, And the biggest thing was this year was Derrick Henry. I think the running game you had last year got you to the AFC Championship game. We were the number one rushing offense. And I can understand why you moved on from Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, especially with their injuries. You kind of wanted to move somebody that was consistent. Fine, I get that. But when I look at when I look at this team, I'm very, very concerned, because everything that tells me about this team is one or two things. I think the biggest thing is I have questions about the defense. Zach Orr is practically a newbie. I would like to have known who else was out there in consideration for defensive coordinator. One thing that really stands off to me is the pass rush. You're losing Jadavion Clowney, who's replacing his sack production. I mean, he was second on the team with 9.5 sacks. Okay, Adafe Owe, this is a to me a make or break year. David Ojabo really coming off an injury. You got Kyle Van Noy back. That's great. Um, I just have a little bit of concern with also replacing Patrick Queen. I'm there's just for me a lot of questions, and I think that for me, I think that they'll be okay for now. I their offense, I don't think really got. I think Derrick Henry makes them a little bit better, but if we're being honest, I really don't. Outside Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, I have a couple questions on the offense. Who is your true number two wide receiver? Nelson Aguilar, Rashard Bateman. I'm looking for them to have a big season. I think Rashard Bateman will surprise a lot of people this year. A lot of people have been doubting him last couple of years, especially with the injuries, all those different things like that. I think he's going to be big. Lamar Jackson is going to be Lamar Jackson. I expect him to win. I'm predicting that he will be in the running for his third MVP this year. We look at the draft. I like the pickup of Nate Wiggins. I thought he was a good pick. Solid corner. Definitely that's especially since Marlon Humphrey's getting older, putting him in the slot makes sense. Roger Walls-Garden, I think was a good pick. I expect him to be a good offensive lineman in this league. Adissa Isaac didn't really. I think right now, just give him chance to grow. He'll be fine. Devontae Walker, just the injuries. He was very limited during the preseason, so I don't expect him to get much out. Then there was TJ Tampa, Rashawn Ali, and I think it was Devin Leary. And also again, when it's hard to really look. It's really hard to really kind of make moves when you're already kind of tight with money. So I was really surprised that, and they paid. He now goes by Nnamdi Madubuike because it was either him or Patrick Queen, and I feel like they could have made it work to keep both. That's just my opinion. But if I'm being honest with this team, because looking at their schedule, their schedule is just, it's not fair. It truly is not. I think we played, I want to say it's 10 teams that were in the playoffs last year. And I think especially, it definitely is going to be tough early. And if I'm being honest, Baltimore can win 11 games. A part of me wants to be confident with that, but another part of me is saying they can win 10. I think what's going to happen to me, let me just say this. I do not expect Baltimore to get back to where they were last year. I do not. I just don't think they got better. When I say got better, I have questions on the offensive line. The passing game, I think, is going to be fine. Are we going to have the same situation like you did last year? And for some context, we ran the ball 6 times. I don't want to see that come postseason nor the regular season. Now, I'm going to step on my soapbox here. John Harbaugh. While, yes, you are a champion, you've been here for quite some time, he's one of the best coaches in the league. At some point, he has to be held accountable. When I say that is how many more seasons can you go into in not getting the job? When I say not getting the job done, the AFC Championship, like we were right there. But we made mistakes. If you paid attention the week before against Houston, What did Baltimore do? They ran the football. So how come in that next week you do not do what got you to where you're at in that game? That's coaching. At some point, John Harbaugh has to be held accountable. Like, I don't know how much evidence does Steve Bisciotti, Eric DeCosta need to go, yeah. Because again, I look at the AFC as a whole. Kansas City is truly the only team that stands in Baltimore's way. Not so on Pittsburgh because of their quarterback situation. Buffalo, as much as I think Josh Allen is a gunslinger, how are they going to look offensively without Stephon Diggs? Cleveland, can Deshaun Watson stay healthy? Cincinnati, Joe Burrow's coming off an injury. What is he going to look like? You're already dealing with the amount of contract disputes. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson. I got questions about that. The only true teams I can say that could give Baltimore a run for their money, Miami, Houston, Kansas City. Everybody else is, and I'm not sold on the Jets. I'm not sold on the Patriots are rebuilding. Those are my three teams I think can give Baltimore some trouble. I think Baltimore can get on paper. I think they are the team that can get to the championship. My opinion, no, because I've seen this movie before. I just have a weird feeling come playoff time, and this is where the critics with Lamar. I understand he's got to win the big one. I understand that. I want to try to shove that aside for a second. But at some point, too, coaching has to be held accountable. And when I'm going to bring Lamar back into this, Lamar, you are a great quarterback. I've watched you from when you took over the starting job in 2018. You got to the wild card. You damn near let it come back until you got strip sacked. I watched you next year do something no other quarterback or team could do. I've watched you in big moments. I question your decision making. I question when I question what you're doing at times. And all I'm asking for Lamar Jackson to do is just be Lamar. But also, too, that's where I got to hold John Harbaugh accountable. I think there's a little too much micromanaging. Say what you want. Yeah, did Lamar Jackson have a bad game against Kansas City? Yes, but that offense does not get a pass. If Zay Flowers does not dive for the end zone and fumbles the ball, we're talking about something different. If you look at the clock management, that's not just on Lamar and the offense. That's on coaching. They ran the ball 6 times against the worst rushing defense. That's coaching. They came out first half defensively, got punched in the mouth. Mike McDaniel and his crew made the adjustments. Todd Monken, John Harbaugh, no. I just think that John has to trust his coaches. And another thing is, too, excuse me, I'm not confident in Zach Orr. I think there's a big, it's an adjustment period. I expect some hiccups. I expect I have some serious questions when I look at this team personally, especially that defense. I think the defense will be stout. Nothing's really changed, but like, I don't know. I really, really don't really know. But I mean, I'm at a point where, like, for me, it's really going to come down to just how they look. I think they'll be fine. Lamar looks great. He's slimmed down. And he's at 205, if I remember correctly. But that's just my outlook for the season. I think they're going to win 10 or 11 games. I think they're going to win the division. Like I said, I'm just not sold on the other three teams. I think it's going to be Baltimore. I think I'm going to give the Cincy, Cleveland, and then Pittsburgh. I think the biggest thing with Pittsburgh, like I already said, I just think that's how I see the AFC North. But if I'm being honest, it's going to be something. It's definitely going to be something. Let's get into the Week 1 preview. Thursday Night Football on the road against Kansas City. This is not fair. It really isn't fair. The one thing that I want to also make this really be immediately clear, that I think is also too, that's something we need to pay attention to. That offense for Baltimore, I think, has strengths and weaknesses. The biggest weakness, I think, right now is replacing 3 veterans on the offensive line. And again, when you're tight with money, there's some tough decisions. So, and the biggest thing is depth. I mean, you have a receiving core that's thin, but I'm looking at guys like Falele, Ben Cleveland, and others. They got to step it up. Like, it's got to be sink or swim, period. When I look at on the defensive side of the ball, like, you still got a Kyle Hamilton, who I think is going to be Defensive Player of the Year this year, in my opinion. Roquan Smith. I mean, they're both elite playmakers. Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Williams, come back healthy. You got Nate Wiggins. I think when you have a defense and what they did last year, I just think that to me, the biggest thing, I don't think they lost. I just think the biggest question is who's replacing Jadeveon Clowney's sack production, and then also too, Patrick Queen. I mean, you got some young guys, Simpson, Robinson, and others, but like, again, and that's also, I forgot to mention this too. We lost Anthony Weaver to Miami, and Denard Wilson is also gone. So, I mean, you lost 3 defensive-minded, coaches in that whole transition last season. So, don't get me wrong, Zach Orr, he's a former Pro Bowl linebacker. I mean, he's moved his way up to the ranks, but I mean, can you replicate a well-disguised scheme and coverages? I think that's just questions I have so far. But I really think that for me, my keys to success, if I'm facing a team like this, I mean, Kansas City, Hollywood Brown is not playing; he's out. I really would like to see how we're going to look against their defense. Yes, we're 1-4 against them. But it's actually interesting to point out Lamar does have his successes. It's interesting he has more success running the ball versus passing the ball against Kansas City. And again, I'm not going to revisit I'm not going to continue to revisit last season because I'm going to get frustrated the more I talk about it. But I really think you added Derrick Henry into that, you can't stack the box. I think that will open up more on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm curious to see how Steve Spagnuolo will change his coverages, especially now when you've got Zay Flowers, Nelson Aguilar, Rashard Bateman, Mark Andrews, and then even also to Isaiah Likely. because also too, I look at their defense. Kansas City, they got rid of L'Jarius Sneed, and then Trent McDuffie is on one side, and then I think it's going to be either Jalen Watson or Joshua Williams as the other option. So I definitely think that they have some interesting things to see as well. I think Derrick Henry is going to be an X factor in this game as well. I'm curious to see how they're going to start him off in the game. And again, last year it was another one of their weaknesses last year, especially in the play action. I think they were 31st, Kansas City. But it's interesting. I'm just going to curious to see how we look, how we establish the run against them, how we look against the pass. That offensive line protecting Lamar, I think, are my keys. Defensively, you got to take some. You got to contain somebody. We all know Travis Kelce is Patrick Mahomes' his best kept secret weapon. I mean, he carved us up 11 catches and 11 targets for 116 yards and a touchdown. And anywho, I look at Xavier Worthy, who's there now, Rashid Rice. I expect to have a big role in this offense until Hollywood Brown comes back. They've got some. Kansas City's got some dogs on that roster in that offense. So I definitely am curious to see how it looks. Defensively, I'm curious to see how defensively, with the pieces you lost, you're still going to be a respected defense, but when I'm effective, like as example, I think we were number one in nickel and dime packages, and we did give a lot of running the ball quite a bit last year. I'm just curious to see how they'll look on both sides of the ball. This is just a test. I don't consider this a revenge game, only because I think both teams are kind of at different points, and I think week one to me is always I don't want to say preview, but I think it sets the tone. I think whoever wins this game, I think sets the tone. And I think for Baltimore, I think they need to win this game. Number one, to shut the media up. But more importantly, I think it just sets the tone to let the media world know, especially Lamar Jackson, like, hey, like, I heard all the chirping y'all did. I'm not going nowhere. We're going to be okay. Again, it's going to come to a couple things. Again, how do you look against that defense? They lost. Also just get Willie Gay. He's gone. You still have Chris Jones and Nick Bolton is still there, but they're going to have to make some adjustments as well. So I expect the first. I expect it to be kind of testing the weaknesses, different things like that. I definitely expect it. I think they can overcome Kansas City. I expect Kansas City to throw their punches. I expect us to throw their punches. I think for Kansas City, their defense is going to be key in this one. For me, I'm simply going to roll with the Ravens. I'm not being a homebody. I just see the Ravens coming into this game motivated, I think prepared. I think they're going to withstand Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, and I think everything's going to be thrown at them. I think they're going to be fine. But I'm going to roll with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to say the final score is 28-21 Baltimore Ravens. Where is my clip?
Guaranteed.
I think the Baltimore Ravens can surprise the Kansas City Chiefs week one. But again, also too, this is a weird season. So apparently also too, we get to see the kicker will Each special teams unit will line up 5 yards across from each other, and they got this. I forget what's from. What's it from the XFL? I can't remember. I don't like it. I'm already going to see. That's going to be a problem because I'm already expecting most special team coordinators to figure out how to handle the kickoffs. I give it like by week 4. So they'll figure it out. But I don't like the new kickoff. I don't like it. That's just me. But that's pretty much my preview. Let me get into the one final thought.
Thoughts are running through my mind. Someone took some time to find a minute or two to organize.
My one final thought is I wanted to kind of talk about Lamar. Wanted to continue my conversation with Lamar Jackson. The way the media has been, and I'm going to just go ahead and say it, Stephen A. Smith and others, Nick Wrights and others. It's just interesting. The energy that Lamar Jackson gets. There's other quarterbacks that do not get the same energy. When I hear takes, I'm going to reference last year. Are the Baltimore Ravens getting their money worth from Lamar Jackson? Joe Burrow doesn't get that kind of question. Josh Allen doesn't get that. Tua doesn't get that. Justin Herbert doesn't get that. My point is, every quarterback has their flaws, but it's interesting to see like there's certain agendas that are pushed, like these last almost going on now a month, pretty much almost 2 months before the season. It's been nothing but about Lamar and Dak. I have not heard anything about, well, how will Josh Allen look like without now Stephon Diggs is gone? No one's concerned about that. Justin Herbert is now with his Jim Harbaugh should make him a Pro Bowler. Justin Herbert should be better. My point is that the energy, if you're going to have energy for one player, keep the same energy for others. Listen, Josh Allen's great. Josh Allen's lost to Patrick Mahomes. They bring up Tua. I think in another year or two, I think Tua will be a top 5 quarterback. I think he has the tools to be elite in this league. You also have to take into consideration, everybody's not Patrick Mahomes, and I get it. We're holding everybody to that standard, but I just don't want us to miss out on the greatness. Peyton Manning, I understand, got the same flack, but if people forget, when he came into the league, look at who was his coach? Jim Mora. Look at those teams until Tony Dungy got there. And I'm not saying John Harbaugh needs to be fine. I'm just saying everybody is at a point where okay, I get it. For all I know is if he wins a title this year, the media is still going to find ways to say, can he do it again? Because last year, if I remember correctly on First Take, they said, oh, he doesn't need to win a championship. Now, all of a sudden, he needs to win it. And if you listen to most of these points, they're recycled questions. They're practically the same questions, but they're asked in a weird way. And it's like, what do you want the guy to do? I understand he's got to play better. I understand in big moments he has to show up. But last time I checked too, I'm not putting that loss on him all the way. He gets blamed, But John Harbaugh, Todd Monken, they get blamed too. But listen, all I'm saying is that Lamar Jackson, I think, will be fine. I have no concerns. I think he's motivated. I think he's heard all the criticism and all those other things. But I just hate that the media, particularly, again, I use Stephen A. Smith as an example. It was a couple weeks ago where John Harbaugh had responded to the criticism that he's heard about Lamar, and we have the selective amnesia on. Where did that come from? What do you mean? Like I just hate when people get on a platform and act like I don't know where that came from. I don't know why he said what is he talking about? It's just weird, and I just really want us to appreciate the greatness that we're seeing from Lamar, Josh Allen. I think this has to make it a great season. But all I'm saying is, at the end of the day, if you're going to criticize, just keep the same energy. Point blank, period. But with that being said, thank you for tuning into this episode of Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. I hope you all have had a great week. Please stay safe. Take care of yourselves. And until the next episode, right here. Peace. Stay up.
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
And I want to thank you. All I want to do is say thank you for everything you